generally you have the organizations are broken up into pro scouting, which means guys that are professional, perhaps drafted by other teams or undrafted players, and you have the amateur scouting. And amateur scouting is guys that are for the draft eligible players.
We've got 10 scouts. We've got 3 scouts in Europe, and the rest are in North America. And then we have 2 or 3 people that also work in the player development part. So they go around and work with the players that we've already drafted and work with them both on and off the ice, trying to make them better.
Просматриваем очень много игроков, и делается такой совокупность мнений и решений, которые в конце концов приходят к общему знаменателю. Наверное, в этом-то и есть вся такая изюминка скаутинга. В мое время скаутинг он был достаточно давно, и сейчас скаутов стало намного больше. Стало больше детей заниматься в хоккее, в частности в России. Все-таки так увеличилось количество команд и прочее. То есть раньше, если это были клубы в больших городах, а-ля Москва, Санкт-Петербург, сейчас их очень много маленьких городов, где играют пацаны и сконцентрированы какие-то таланты. Поэтому приходится ездить намного больше и игр смотреть намного больше.
You know, we try to identify and see as many games as possible. So, you know, as a scout, we travel a lot. I'll be leaving tomorrow and then going to Sweden and then back into Germany and then the Czech Republic. So, you know, we go where the players go, and these tournaments are great. Yeah, you're able to see 3 games, so it makes it worth the trip.
У нас график порядка от 20 до 30 игр в месяц мы просматриваем вживую. Это приблизительный график каждого скаута.
It changes, and it changes a lot if the rules change. Like, 15, 20 years ago, it was hard for smaller defensemen to play in the NHL because there was more hooking and holding and interference, and bigger, stronger players, could play. I think in today's game, now that the rules have changed, the speed of the game is so fast that you really have to have good speed with not just your feet, but also with your brain. You have to be able to think the game really quickly.
10 years ago, Europe was a place where it was a lot on skill and technique and skating and puck possession, and the NHL was more of a heavier, bigger type of aggressive style of play. And now you see the NHL's product has changed to speed, skill. So therefore, there's a more importance now of doing the proper scouting inside of Europe to find those skilled players that can help your team in North America. What people have to understand as a hockey player is a human being as well. So some players grow faster than other players. It's never easy. You see some players 1 year, and then next time you see them, they're much bigger, much taller, much stronger. So there's no 2 players are equal. So I think that's kind of why you start to watch them, 17, 18 years old, and then everything's kind of somewhat even.
We start evaluating them usually when they're 16 years old, which is before the draft. They're either going to be 17, 18, or 19 in the draft. So usually we see them when they're 16. The odd time we see them when they're 15, because we'd like to know if in their draft year if they're still getting better or if they've kind of leveled off. And then after we draft them, unless they're I mean, even Ovi didn't play for 3 years. He didn't play till he was 20 years old. A lot of our players won't make the Capitals until they're 21 or 22. Most of them will either play a couple more years on their junior teams, or they'll stay over in Europe and play 2 or 3 years, and then a lot of them go to our American League team, which is the Hershey Bears, and they'll play there. We like to take our time and be very patient with them, so when they get to the NHL, they're ready to play and they're ready to contribute. The NHL is still a man's league, so sometimes these younger guys have, you know, they're tall and they're big bodies, but they don't have the strength that's required to play against a 28-year-old or a 30-year-old man, so we like to be very patient with them.
Все по-разному, физиология, абсолютно разные вещи, по-разному раскрывается в людях. Кто-то в 18 лет уже мужиком становится, а кто-то до 25 лет еще ребенок, поэтому нельзя сказать, что в 20 лет ты однозначно будешь хоккеистом. Очень много ребят, которые не попадают на драфт, но потом доходят, так сказать, да, развиваются и попадают на заметку уже профессиональных скаутов, которые не просто людей выбирают в юном возрасте для того, чтобы на драфт поставить, а уже смотрят их как сложившихся игроков и, соответственно, подписывают как свободных агентов. Но есть немножко небольшая градация. То, что здесь происходит сейчас вот в Минске, да, здесь ребята, которые пойдут на драфт этим летом, ребята до 18 лет, то есть 2002 год рождения до 15 сентября. Вот, поэтому такое пристальное внимание молодежи. Здесь нужно еще предсказать, угадать, насколько человек дальше сможет перешагнуть из молодежного, из детского хоккея во взрослый. Поэтому здесь немножко сложнее. Когда уже сложившийся игрок, там все более-менее понятно. А с молодыми игроками всегда очень непросто.
I think, you know, at 20, I think, you know, you're pretty much for the NHL. I think that's, you know, that's probably a fair window to maybe close on a player. You know, but I think in Europe, you know, you see a lot of guys. I think the best age for a hockey player is 24, 25. So I think in Europe we allow longer time for our players to develop. And I think in North America it's much shorter. But, you know, a North American player plays 12 months a year. You know, they're always on the ice. And I think in Europe, you know, we have our summers, we do something else. And I think this adds up at the end. So I think that's the reason why some players in Europe are better when they're older than perhaps when they're 20.
Игроки, они же не стоят на месте, лига не стоит на месте, во-вторых, ты их можешь обменять всегда. Это как товар, который в ходу. Либо ну, ты его можешь как продать, ты можешь его сам использовать, можешь его обменять куда-то. То есть это, так скажем, хождение валюты в пуле НХЛ.
After we draft them, you know, we take a look at each player and decide, you know, what do we need to do to work on to make him better? Is it his skating? Is it his strength and things like that? So it's a combination of working on the ice and also working off the ice in the gymnasium to take the sort of the weaknesses that they have and make them their strengths, make them become a strength for them. So we're very patient. It's probably, most of our players, it's at least 4 or 5 years before they become Capitals, maybe even longer. We've had some players that haven't made it till they're 23 or 24, and that's 6 or 7 years from their draft. So.
We would obviously scout players multiple times and start to track them over the season. You know, a lot of the times too, we've already known these players a couple of years prior to their draft eligible years. So, you know, there's a lot of work that you're doing for this current year, but you're also working to gather information for the upcoming years as well.
Естественно, есть какие-то направленности у каждой команды. Кто-то ищет на перспективу, на будущее. Кто-то ищет защитника, кто-то ищет вратаря, кто-то ищет нападающего. Опять же, это идет от потолка зарплат, от контрактной ведомости, от того, какие контракты у тебя в команде подписаны. Ну, к примеру, да, вот подписал Овечкин там на 10 лет контракт. То есть, естественно, они рассчитывают на него на ближайшие 10 лет. То есть им бомбардир такого уровня, допустим, он уже в меньшей степени нужен, чем там разыгрывающий игрок. Ну, я к примеру говорю, да. Поэтому, естественно, какие-то направления, они все равно даются.
Yeah, I think, Sweden and Finland, but, there's other countries that have done very well in developing. I think it's just also you have to consider that everybody plays hockey in Sweden or Finland. And if you go into, for example, into Germany now, kids are soccer oriented, maybe not hockey. So I think it's due to the amount of players playing the game, the popularity of the sport.
For us, we don't care where they come from. We drafted a player from Australia, and he ended up moving to Czech Republic and playing, and he was actually on our Stanley Cup team. I think he played a couple games. So we've drafted Finns and Swedes and Russians and, like I said, an Australian and European players, like from everywhere. So for us, it doesn't matter where you're from. We're just going to try to find the best player that we possibly can. And we really are represented on the Capitals with, like I said, lots of different players, like from lots of different countries. So it's important for us to just find the players. We really don't care where they're from. Yeah, I mean, the game right now really has gone towards a speed game. I think if you can't skate to a certain level, it's really hard to play in the NHL because they are fast. But it's also strength, and strength doesn't mean you have to be real great. It's hockey strength, So, like on our team, we have an example like Dmitry Orlov. He's only about 5'10.5", but he weighs about 210 pounds. He's really solid on his skates. He's really hard to knock off his skates. So we don't talk about size or height. We talk about hockey strength.
Ну, смотрите, драфт проходит, у каждой команды есть 7 раундов, 7 прав выбора. У кого-то может быть чуть больше, чуть меньше за счет того, что делаются обмены, меняют там игрока на несколько раундов. Вот, поэтому выбирается чуть больше 200 человек ежегодно. Из них, из 200 человек, я думаю, что в НХЛ попадает от 10 до 20 человек максимум попадает в НХЛ. То есть все остальные ребята это такой призрачный шанс, которым они могут или не могут воспользоваться. Все зависит будет уже в дальнейшем от них, как они будут развиваться, как они будут себя повышать свое мастерство и прочее.
And so I think probably the last 7 or 8 years we've seen smaller defensemen be more successful than they used to be. So as scouts, we have to always try to project where is the game going in what direction and what type of players will be most successful.
I think that there's a lot of players that are somewhat similar. I think if you take the first couple of guys every year, the superstars. I think those are the guys that everybody can identify, but I think the challenge of scouting is trying to find guys perhaps later in the round that have that potential, but they can separate themselves maybe on who they are as a person, the way that they work, the way they are as a teammate. I think those are really important parts of teams that have success, have good people inside the locker room.
It's trying to find both, and it's a big investment for us. A first-round pick is to sign that player is a lot of money, but we're looking obviously for the attributes of whether you can skate and how well you think the game and skill and those sorts of things. But we're also looking for good people because we can't be successful unless we try to find players that have high character. Players that are unselfish, good teammates, players that are willing to do everything they can on and off the ice to make themselves better and hopefully become a Washington Capital and help us on our journey to win a Stanley Cup.
Raidījumu atbalsta Rietumu banka.